Hi everybody, how are you? It's Mike Andrew once again providing a short video with practical insights as it applies to business and leadership. Today I want to build off my last video. My last video generated some questions, some comments, which now resulted in this video, which why it's important to let me know what you think of each of these videos. The last video I talked about owning your career, taking responsibility for your career. Here's the big word, fighting for your career. And I kept using the word fight in a positive sense. And I equated fighting a lot with being politically savvy. And I gave examples, which I won't get into again, but how I worked with my previous company, 14 CEOs and their direct reports, basically about 100 people. And I worked with them individually one-on-one. And I learned a lot about how they got to where they got in their successful career. They didn't sit back and wait for it to happen, believe me. They fought for it, they were politically savvy, they earned it. And so I got some questions around, political savvy, and some people are mistaking political savvy with being political. Big difference. We all know when someone's being political. We can see it, we can pick it out. But political savvy is a certain type of skill that some people pay attention to and develop. It's part of their executive presence. And I'm going to give you my view on how you become politically savvy. I'm not an expert at it. I'm just basing it on my experiences over the years, what I've learned and what I've observed. So political savvy, to me, is about having that certain presence, that executive presence. It's about consistency, being straightforward and candid, and building your credibility, building your brand. It's not about charisma. I've always had a problem equating leadership with charisma or charisma with leadership because I think it just does a disservice to what leadership is. I've seen some of the most charismatic people that were not extroverts, that didn't have this outgoing personality. They were quiet, unassuming, introverted, but they were charismatic with their views, with their approach, with the way they made good decisions, with the way they handled difficult situations. All that's charisma, and charisma is not the person that's outgoing, energetic, rah-rah. You can say that's charisma, but it gets misinterpreted. So charisma to me has a whole different meaning, and I don't usually equate it with leadership. So, a couple of other examples about being politically savvy is coming from the United States, all my years, the HR profession, I'm sorry to say, has not developed a good reputation. I'd say for at least 40 years, I've been getting, invites to go to these HR conferences, and there's always a talk about how HR can get invited to the table, to get a seat at the table. If it's taking you 40 years and you're still talking about it, forget it. Forget it. You just got to make it happen. There's an HR VP or head of HR out here that I'm aware of, that I've observed, and he belongs at the table with the CEO team. His confidence, his executive presence, his political savvy, and the executive team, they don't look at him as an HR person. They look at him as part of the executive team who's contributing with thoughts, with his thinking, with contributing to the business, not just focusing on HR and HR language. This guy has earned it. It's beautiful to see an HR executive belonging at the table, literally belonging. I remember I used to go to these meetings with all the VPs, and there'd be about 40 VPs, and for the most part, people are generally quiet because if everyone's talking, you only have 90 minutes and you got an agenda. But there were always a few that contributed with some updates because it was the timing of it was good for them to give updates. But I remember there was this one guy, very senior person, who generally was a contributor, but this one time he asked a question. It was a very provocative question that opened the floodgates, that got a quiet room out of their seats, jumping with viewpoints and opinions. It really raised the energy level. That was presence, that was savvy, that was having confidence to do so. Very impressive. So how do you develop political savvy? In my view, in my humble view, that just based on my experience, It's a person who, number one, is can recognize or they're aware of the interpersonal dynamics at play, whether it's in a large group meeting or one-on-one. Number two, it's a person who has a tendency to be aware of the agenda of the other person or the other people. Three, they're very good, they're astute at navigating throughout the organization to get things done, to make that phone call. Related to that is they're very good at managing relationships all over, up, aside, and below, the 360 as we say. That's leveraging you know who, not just you know how, but you know who to navigate throughout and who to call, where to go to get things done. They're very good at listening. They listen very well and they ask good questions, just like the senior person I was telling you about. When they are in a meeting, they're very good at presenting a case with logic, with substance, with reason, with facts. And to do that, they come prepared. They come prepared to the meeting. You know, I always say if you spend 10 minutes getting prepared for the meeting, you're probably 10 minutes more prepared than the next person. So it's having that preparation, stating a case in a very straightforward fashion. Because I remember a quote I heard a while back that it says, every time you speak, you are auditioning for leadership. I'll say it again. Every time you speak, you are auditioning for leadership. So recognize the interpersonal dynamics at play. Know when to talk, know when not to talk. Understand or get a sense of the agenda or motives of other people in the meeting. Being very good, astute at navigating throughout the organization and leveraging your relationships to get things done. Listening well and asking good questions. Presenting a logical, substantive case based on facts and being prepared in order to do that well. That to me is all about political savvy and having that presence, knowing that you belong at the table. So thank you all for listening. It was because of your comments that I'm doing this video. And we'll see you next time. Take care.